Okay guys, I'm here for another retro review. Today we're revisiting our good friends at World Championship Wrestling, or WCW. As today we review Fall Brawl 1995. Home to what is probably the single worst War Games match in the entire history of the War Games. At least under the traditional rules of War Games, that is. This show is also probably the worst Fall Brawl show around, as there's two good matches on it. So, took place September the 17th, 1995, from the Ashville Civic Center in Asheville, North Carolina. We have a 6-match card, just like the last year's Fall Brawl, so our maximum star rating is 30. We open with Johnny B. Bad versus Flyin Brian in a match where the winner will receive a shot at Sting's United States Championship. This is a one-fall, 20-minute time limit match that originally goes to the 20-minute time limit. But because this match is for a contendership, the match gets restarted. And eventually the finishing sequence is Johnny B. Bad and Flyin Brian both go for a crossbody and they both hit, and then Johnny B. Bad falls into a pin, which gets the win. This is a very, very good match. It's a very solid 4.5 star match. It is probably Johnny B. Bad's best match he ever had. And that's over the WWE and WCW careers. This is probably, it's definitely his best WCW match. Maybe one of the matches of Austin he had is his best WWE match, but this is definitely his best WCW match. Only thing though, Johnny B. Bad never got this U.S. Championship match, as far as I know. It was supposed to take place on a WCW Saturday night, but he had car problems and couldn't get to the arena. That would later, we found out, was due to Diamond Dallas Page, which set up a match for Halloween Havoc. So really, this whole thing was pointless. And that's why I'm giving it 4.5 stars, not the full 5, is because ultimately what it was supposed to be for never happened. So 4.5 stars. Really good match. Really solid match. But as WCW sometimes often goes, when they have a really bright spot, we drop off and we go to crap. In this case, we get Cobra versus Sergeant Craig the Pitbull Pittman. Yeah, this match is nothing really. Starts out when Sergeant Craig Pittman sends out a private, which is Prince Iakea, before he ended up full-time wrestler in the company. And he distracts Cobra. Pittman repels from the ring and attacks Cobra from behind. And all Cobra gets in, offensive-wise, is a defensive move, which is a reverse Irish whip into the turnbuckle. That's it. Cobra then goes for a top rope move. And then Pittman just moves out of the way, puts on the Cobra, wins the match. Yep. This match is not good. It's just not. In fact, I don't even know. And by the way, they had built this whole thing between Cobra and Craig Pittman up for like, I think, 2 or 3 months. So this is the blow-off, and they didn't even give us a long match. In fact, they gave us a squash match. So, no stars here. Speaking again of garbage, WCW World Television Championship match. Oh, excuse me. Before the WCW World Television Championship match, but speaking of garbage, they aired this segment of Paul Orndorff, where after he lost to Randy Savage on WCW Worldwide Wrestling, he started doubting himself, and was he really Mr. Wonderful and whatnot. And in came Gary Spivey from the Psychic Companions Network, and it basically got to where you couldn't call him Paul Orndorff anymore, you call him Mr. Wonderful. This is the last real thing he did in his career, because shortly after World War III that year, I believe he suffered a neck or a back injury and was forced into retirement. Segment's still stupid. And like I said, speaking of garbage stuff, WCW World Television Championship match. The Renegade versus Diamond Dallas Page. The garbage here is the Renegade. The Renegade was never that good. He was meant to be an Ultimate Warrior ripoff, but at least the Ultimate Warrior occasionally cared to give it a actual good match. At least when he was wrestling Rick Rude, Hulk Hogan, or Randy Savage anyway. Here, Renegade never was much of anything. It's a shame that Arn Anderson and Paul Orndorff had to lose to him in WCW. But they didn't have Diamond Dallas Page lose to him. This match is half a star, and it's because of Diamond Dallas Page and more of the story that goes on of him and the Diamond Doll and their eventual breakup later in the game, later in the year. Finish comes, Renegade's got Diamond Dallas Page in a position where he can clearly end the match, but he jumps onto Maxx Muscle for some dumb reason. It doesn't make any logical sense. Maxx Muscle grabs his foot as he's getting in the ring. Page hits a diamond cutter, wins the match, and becomes the World Television Champion. And the thing with Johnny B. Bad, well, Page was behind that, but I'll get into that in the Halloween Havoc 1995 review, because that's what Johnny B. Bad was doing next, was challenging for the World Television Championship at the 1995 Halloween Havoc. But I'll get into that when I do WCW Tober in the first half of October. So, like I said, half a star for that match. So then we get the WCW World Tag Team Championship match. Bunkhouse, Buck, and Dirty Dick Slater versus Harlem Heat. This is an okay little tag match compared to the last two matches anyway. This is a 2-star match. It's not a horrible match by any stretch of the imagination. It is a traditional tag match in which Harlem Heat are playing the faces. So Booker T is your face in peril type of thing. Eventually, the finishing sequence centers around Colonel Parker and Sherry and their budding relationship, because over in the second ring, they are involved in a kiss that's really, really big, which distracts the referee, which in come the Nasty Boys. The Nasty Boys then hit Dick Slater with hit one of his boots, and then Harlem Heat scores the win. Now this got Sherry and Parker together, which ends it well with either team. Bunkhouse Buck berates Colonel Parker after the match, but Parker says he'll get him a rematch for the tag titles. He might have, I don't really know. And also, this match did come about from a 6-person tag match at the Clash of the Champions of the previous month, in which Harlem Heat and Sherry took on Buck, Slater, and Parker. And if Harlem Heat and Sherry won, then Harlem Heat would get the tag titles. That's why this is happening. And Harlem Heat didn't like the thing because of reasons. And it was really just and all that. 2 stars, though. Compared to the 2 matches that followed, that preceded it, good match. So then we get arguably the match this pay-per-view is most known for. Johnny B. Bad Brian Pillman is, you know, a good match. Well, this is a great match. Now, they're the same rating, but this match is the great match because it has a better overall story to it. And that is Ric Flair versus Arn Anderson. The match was hyped up as the match we always wanted to see, but never thought we would. And it basically came about because they did this thing in WCW where Ric Flair was becoming too dependent on Arn Anderson, and Arn Anderson wanted to make him stand on his own. And that eventually got Arn Anderson so mad that they're having this match. And a lot of wrestlers come out to watch this match. The Nasty Boys, Brian Pillman, the American Males, Colonel Parker, Big Bubba. And this is a great match. It's what you expect from Ric Flair and Arn Anderson, and so much history between both of them, captivating in this one match. Now, my only real problem with this match, which is why it's not a 5-star match, is the whole thing that the finish is Brian Pillman gets on the apron, gets decked by Flair, then kicks Flair in the back of the head. Okay, that's retaliatory. Flair gets hit with a DDT, and then Arn Anderson covers, gets the win. Now, this finish was being used to set up a match at Halloween Havoc 1995, which was a tag match, in which it would be Anderson and Flyin Brian versus Sting and Flair, which was also basically just set up to reform the Horsemen. So this whole thing between Arn Anderson and Ric Flair was set up to reform the Four Horsemen. That's essentially all this thing was, and you could have actually had more singles matches out of Flair and Anderson, other than this one-off that essentially was just to reform the Four Horsemen anyway. But that's my only real problem why it's not 5 stars. It's a 4.5-star match. I do think Anderson winning was the right booking decision. I would prefer he do it clean and not basically have a match be used to essentially reform the Horsemen, as that's, as I said, what this whole thing ended up being about down the road at Halloween Havoc. Which I'll also get to as part of WCW Tober. So our main event, the War Games, which, like I said, is arguably the worst War Games ever. At least under the standard War Games rules till they changed it in '98. But it's the Hulkamaniacs, Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Sting, and Lex Luger versus the Dungeon of Doom, Shark, Zodiac, Kamala, and Meng. Okay, that's the equivalence of, say, the New England Patriots, and they're facing a JV squad in that kind of situation. It's kind of that situation. It's kind of like a pro team facing a JV squad. And on top of that, the way they book the entrances for the Dungeon of Doom make no sense. It makes Kevin Owens look like an idiot. Because Sting starts for the Hulkamaniacs, which is okay, because Sting and Lex Luger were the 2 most experienced members of the War Games in this match, so it makes more sense for Sting to start the match, as he's been in War Games and know what it's about. But Dungeon of Doom choose Shark to start the match, who is Earthquake. Now, Bobby Heenan got confused about this and said what he would have done, which is the right idea. WCW should have done this where Sting and Zodiac start, and then when Dungeon Doom got the man advantage like they did, they sing Meng in, then they sing Kamala, and then they sing Shark in. You start with your smallest guy and work your way up to your biggest. Since the biggest man in here has to be in for the entire duration of the match. So, Dungeon Doom doesn't do that, and since the whole idea here is that if the Hulkamaniacs win, Hogan gets a 5-minute match, or just gets to fight Taskmaster for 5 minutes, it doesn't make any logical sense. But the Dungeon Doom win the coin toss, and then in comes the Zodiac, and it's 2-on-1. Then Randy Savage comes in, makes it 2-on-2. Kamala comes in, which again should have been Meng. If you're going to start with a big guy, you should have at least saved Kamala for last. And then Luger comes in, and right near the end of the period, there's an accidental shot where Luger hits Savage, and Savage hits Luger, and they get into a fight because Savage didn't trust Luger. Then Meng comes in, making it 4-on-3, then Hogan comes in, evening it up at 4-on-4, and Hogan basically just wins by himself, putting a camel clutch on the Zodiac. That's it. The other War Games matches were believable in a thing like this, because the one in '91, Brian Pillman got knocked out after 2 power bombs and couldn't continue. The one in '92, Bobby Eaton got put in an armbar, yeah, but he was also hit by an actual turnbuckle. He was actually hit by an actual turnbuckle before that. The one in '93, Booker T gave up to the Shockmaster in a bear hug because the Shockmaster was a very huge guy squashing Booker T. And in '94, it was Colonel Parker who, in a figure 4 breast throws and getting waylaid by the Nasties at the same time. So this is the weakest finish to a War Games I've ever seen. So, the match itself, War Games, is 1 star. Hogan gets Taskmaster in the cage, but the Giant shows up. So that's why I'm not rating Hogan and the Taskmaster, because it's not a match. It's an angle used to set up the main event for Halloween Havoc, which is Hogan and the Giant. So War Games is 1 star. This show gets a 12.5 out of 30. Now, do those 2 matches that are 4.5 stars is that whole rating. Is the majority of that rating. Those two matches alone get this to the C- that it is. Without those two matches, this show would be probably like a D- or a D. It would be very, very bad without those two matches. So, this will be my retro wrestling review. This will be my retro wrestling review playlist. If you like the video, like button is down there, subscribe button is down there, and thank you for watching. Bye.